Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we are live. Oh, B, I've done a hell of a lot of shows. I hope you've been liking and I'm hoping you've been subscribing. Sitting here with a frigging heart problem and no chest and no throat, doing about 6 shows in in the last 2 days. Here to help me is, of course, the royalty is in the building, boxing connoisseur, and my light-skinned brother from another mother, Mr. Ariku, is here, aka Jam Master. Let me put my headphones in so I can hear this man talk. Jesus Christ, I can't even get this man talking
Good,
right.
good afternoon, everyone. How are you
Sure,
doing?
everybody else can. Riku, I can't even hear you, but just carry on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine, Riku. I can hear you. It's me. It's me. It's me. I just messed around with my headphones. That's all. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. We've had some big news in boxing over the last 24 hours. The magical purse bid has finally happened. So
Jesus Christ.
I think we've got a lot to discuss here. And most importantly, whether the fight happens or whether it doesn't happen, right?
All right. Well, shall we start off? We haven't had you on for a while. So, I tell you what, where do you want to start? You start off wherever you want to start. Go on, Riku.
Shall we start with the bids, right? So we start with Matchroom. Let's use Sterling as most of the audience are UK audience betting £24 million. And Queensberry / Top Rank betting £31 million for the Whyte Fury against Whyte fight. So I think it's good to start with the fact that what the Matchroom bid was. So I've just crunched some numbers here. And let's go with the 80% to 20% split. So Matchroom valued the fight at £24 million, which would pay Tyson Fury £19.2 million out of that, 80%, and Dillian Whyte £4.8 million. And that £4.8 million is not much more than what he made for the Povetkin fight. So I think that's a low ball offer. I don't know what you think about that, but that's the Matchroom that I'm talking about.
Well, I'm going to let you carry on there, but all I will say is this: one of Dillian Whyte's very close friends, who happens to make YouTube videos, was rather upset with the bid that was put in there by Eddie Hearn. I believe they were expecting a bid of somewhere in the region of $50 million. But carry on, Riku.
So the top rank bid, 31 million sterling. I'll just use sterling. Gives Fury about 25 million pounds and gives Whyte about 6.2 million pounds, which is 50% more than he made for the Povetkin fight, but it's still some way off the $10 million he was asking for this fight. So I think if anybody's a loser here, it is Dillian Whyte, one way or another. He's a loser in terms of not getting what he wanted, being forced to this purse bid situation, his own promoter lowballing this offer, which was about £6 million less, and having signed with DAZN recently. It's interesting to see that DAZN have lost this bid for arguably the marquee name on their boxing platform from a UK perspective, meaning that Joshua's next fight, whoever he might face, we can still discuss whether this fight happens, but in any case, Joshua, if he were to face Usyk, that's probably going to be on Sky. Whyte will be on BT Sports / ESPN. So what will DAZN offer its customers in the next 6 months where there's value for money? You'll have a Coley fight against Cieslik. You'll have Conor Benn fight against TBA, and then they'll announce somebody. You might get you're going to get Katie Taylor fight against somebody. I'm not that fast. But generally, what are they going to offer? Bellew against Logan Paul, possibly? Who knows?
It does look like Bellew's coming back. I'll tell you something that's quite interesting, Riku. I don't want to get too far off, but for those of you who are DAZN connoisseurs, I believe the price of DAZN has recently gone up in Germany. Is it Germany? The price of DAZN has recently gone up rather drastically. I believe in one country it's gone up from something like $7 to $10 all the way up to $24.99 again. So just to say, get ready for those purse hikes. Is he going to fight Riku? Is he going to turn up? Riku, at the minute, I'll be honest with you, I don't. Frank Warren seems quite positive about it, actually. I've just watched his interview with Dev, which I'm going to put the link to in the box. I have permission from Dev, of course, to use his video, and I would encourage you to watch it and support Queensbury rather than support Umar Ahmed from IFL TV. To be honest, but is he going to turn up, Riku?
So he hasn't tweeted about this or posted anything about the purse bid, but I kind of get it because he's going to make the money. He won't make any more regardless. So it's not uncommon for boxers after losing a purse bid to do nothing in the promotional point of view. And usually boxing contracts, so a purse bid doesn't mean a contract has been signed. It just assigns the purse, the mandatory purse for, well, the mandatory fighter, what the purse will be. It doesn't even mean Fury will get this money. So in some ways, he's got no obligations to tweet or share anything. In most boxing contracts for bouts, you'd put in commercial obligations by the B-side fighter, and it might be a certain amount of posts that you have to put up in the run-up to the fight. It might be a certain amount of media engagement, and then the standards, turning up at the press conference, doing this and that, doing a head-to-head. So that stuff still needs to be negotiated. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's not doing anything until they have a contract. But I think there's going to be a lot of conversations happening here. And I'll get to my answer. There's going to be a lot of conversations happening between Eddie, Team Whyte, to assess what the other options are. And I believe that Tyson Fury and his team are continuing to explore the options of the Usyk fight because they need a backup plan in case this doesn't happen. The pressure is now on Dillian Whyte to accept the deal that's on the table. So he can't really pull out, even if the deal isn't great. But he can't pull out because otherwise he loses his mandatory position. But there might be an agreement where you'd get Joshua to fight against Whyte, and then you'd get Usyk to fight against Fury. And then whoever wins the Joshua Whyte fight becomes mandatory. That will be enforced by the WBC, but then all sorts of things need to be negotiated. So what happens with the IBF mandatory? What happens with the WBA mandatory? What happens with all the other mandatories that they have to face? So I don't think that he is committed to this fight at the moment because financially it's not the deal he was probably hoping for. And also he can't gain financial upside in any way because his team haven't won the bid, so you can't give him pay-per-view money on top. You can't give him anything. They can't select the venue, which will bring them more money. They can't stage the fight in
let me just
Saudi Arabia, for example.
Let me just quickly jump in, Riku, and say one thing. Do you know, if he does win the fight, I've heard because of this 10% winning bid or whatever it is that the WBC have, I've been told that if Dillian Whyte was to beat Tyson Fury, he'd get 11 million.
Okay, let me ask you this, and everybody's been going on about this on Twitter.
And listen, don't ask me too many questions. I don't have a fucking clue. I'm just telling you what they told me.
Yeah, I mean, anybody here in the comments can respond to this. So the purse bid is 100%, right? The WBC aren't going to put up an extra 10%. So the pie is 100%. Does that mean that Fury gets 70% and the winner gets another 10% from Fury's 80% effectively? Or does it mean that Whyte actually gets 15%, Fury gets 75%, and then 10% goes to the winner? Because I don't know how that works, right?
Do you know what? I didn't know how it worked, but if this fucking useless app called Twitter actually worked, and I was able to get it up on the screen, I had Richard from Twitter, one of my mods, break it down for me to the dollar early on. I just need to get that up right now. But Twitter's absolutely playing up, so I'm just going to try and do that. But I've got it literally to the dollar. Harvey Chan's asking what if it's a draw. I believe Richard's even answered that question as well. So if you bear with me, we'll get to that.
That's as good as asking if Santa Claus is alive, right? I mean, it's not going to be a draw. And if the fight happens, there's only going to be one outcome.
Wow. I don't know. We're going to keep hearing about Dillian Whyte's left. I tell you what, Riku, certain individuals this morning. I mean, the excuses are just unbelievable. I mean, they're worrying about what I've heard this morning is certain individuals are hoping that this arbitration is going to magically entitle Dillian Whyte to 35 to 45% of the purse bid, which is then basically going to bankrupt Frank Warren, and Frank Warren won't be able to put the fight on, which is going to nix the purse bid, which is then in turn going to cause Tyson Fury to vacate. I will say one thing very quickly. Dev Sani, in the interview that I linked in the chat, guys, if you can, just even if you're not going to watch the video, if you can just hit the link, support Queensbury Promotions, that would be absolutely fantastic. Dev actually, and for me, asked a lot better questions than Umar, and Dev asked Frank basically, what is the situation with the arbitration, etc., etc. What if blah blah blah, and Frank's answer was that is a matter between the WBC and Dillian Whyte. That was Frank's answer. I'll even see if I can get the clip of it up. Actually, I'll see if I can get it up. StreamYard's playing up at the minute. I'll see if I can get it up now. But Frank said that's got nothing to do with us. That is a matter between the WBC and Dillian Whyte. So he didn't flinch at all when being asked that question. Sorry, Riku, please carry on.
It's also not something he can really comment. He won't know the details legally, but if Dillian Whyte and his team know anything about legal matters, surely you can't be suing the sanctioning body that you're fighting under, right? It's not. How
long have they been in court for? When Dillian Whyte finishes boxing, right, he should consider doing some kind of Judge Joe Brown spin-off, because this man spent more time in court than O.J. Simpson. How long has this man spent in court? Have you ever seen a black man?
He's never won a case.
Jesus Christ! I've never seen a black man be in court for so long. Jesus Christ. Unbelievable.
The only winners are Dillian Whyte's lawyers here.
I'll tell you what, let me get this up here, yeah? Oh, thank you, Shevin. Shevin emailed me Richard's breakdown. Thank you, Shevin. What was I going to say? Somebody in the comment section mentioned this, and I have to mention this quickly. Tweedledee and Tweedledum, a.k.a. Bill and Ben, the Flower Pot Men, also known as Adam Smith and Ben Shalom. Two of the biggest fucking clowns, in my opinion, in all of boxing. You don't have to share that opinion, but that's just my opinion. Ben Shalom, I couldn't figure out why Ben Shalom was on TalkSport earlier on this week saying Dillian Whyte's a pay-per-view star. That's what he said this week. Ben Shalom was asked, I think by Simon Jordan on TalkSport. So what do you think a fair purse is? Yeah, what do you think a fair split is? Because Ben Shalom was like, let's see if the WBC have got the balls, to call it 80-20. By the way, fucking less than 48 hours later, they called it 80-20. But Ben Shalom's talking like he's Clint Eastwood on TalkSport. Yeah, let's see if the WBC have got the balls to call it 80-20. And they said, Ben, what do you think? Here we go. It's the video here. They go, Ben, what do you think Dillian was worth? And he goes, I think Dillian's worth at least 30-35%, right? Of first split, right? I couldn't figure this out. I think like, what the
but Dillian's not even a fighter, is he? Dillian is not a fighter.
Well, hold on. Let me just say this. So I couldn't work out why the fuck he was saying that until if you watch Frank's interview with Dev, which I'll quickly bring up. I'm not going to play it over you, but if you bring up Frank Warren's interview with Dev, Queensbury Sports, Frank said that he received a phone call. It's this interview here. Oopsie daisy. Sorry about that. He received a phone call from Ben Shalom 25 minutes before the purse bid. Ben Shalom called up Frank Warren and claimed to be representing Dillian Whyte and wanted to do a deal with Frank Warren. I'm not even kidding with you.
I mean, that's boxing for you, right? You can represent anybody, and if you take a deal to them, you'll become the de facto promoter, effectively.
Let me just see, Riku, let me just see if I can get that. Let me know if you can hear the sound, Riku, on this or not. Hold on.
What Tyson wanted, and it's certainly what Dillian Whyte
knew, because it's sort of been presented as a new bid.
It's very important, and we've been working hard on it. As you know, it's been postponed, I think, 3 or 4 times over the past few weeks. BT box office.
And was there any last-minute conversations? I was watching an interview with Eddie yesterday where he was talking about there's always a call that goes in just before the actual bid happens. Were there any last-minute talks to
we
get
got a call? We had a call together with Jeff Bentz, who is the lawyer for Dillian, and also George, my son, got a call from Ben Shalom, who was trying to do a deal. And for some reason, they didn't even bid. But I don't know what they were trying to do a deal with us for, and they never even put a bid in. But it was what it was.
He goes on to explain it, but I won't play it. But yeah, Ben Shalom, ringing up Frank Warren about 20 minutes before the bid, saying, I'm representing Dillian Whyte. Unbelievable. Hopefully Frank put the phone down and told him where to fucking go, but it is what it is. Carry on, Rico. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Did you see this? I don't know whether this was a joke or not, but the guy that's involved with Kinnock Boxing or some guy had put a bid for 19 million.
Get in there. Ben Shalom. That explains it all. So Harvey Chan says, Ben Shalom was a couple of years above me at school. Well, there you go, Harvey. There's hope for us all then. Fucking hell. Ben Shalom and Adam Smith. You ever seen Pinky and the Brain from the Animaniacs?
Yeah, I remember. Pinky and the Brain.
Pinky and the Brain.
The two mice,
Adam Smith and Ben Shalom, innit? Pinky and the Brain, innit? Adam Smith's the brain, innit? And Ben Shalom's Pinky. Phoning up Frank Warren 25 minutes for the bid. He's trying. This bid's been going on for fucking 4 weeks, and Ben Shalom phones up. Think he's gonna get a deal. Carry on, Riku.
Let's get back to this idea that somebody said something about 10% of the money going aside of the total thing, and then what happens is apparently then the winner gets 10%. So effectively, what we're saying is Dillian Whyte is getting 15%, right?
Okay. Let me get you the email from Shevin.
Yeah, so
carry on.
So that would mean that Dillian Whyte is actually only getting £4.6 million.
1 sec. I've got the stats.
Unless he wins.
Now. Let me get it up. Big thanks to Shevin for that, because I was right in the shitter. Okay. Right.
True,
Here we go.
Right.
So if you can see it. So have a look at that. Richard says total purse bid $41 million. Fury guaranteed $29.5 million. Whyte guaranteed $7.4 million. Win bonus $4.1 million. If Whyte loses, he gets $7.4 million, so he's guaranteed it. If Whyte wins, he gets $11.5 million. If Fury wins, Fury gets $33 million. So what Richard's saying here is that Whyte is guaranteed the money. He's guaranteed the 7.4, but if he beats Fury, he gets an extra $4 million on top. Now, if Richard's maths are correct, I'm just going to get my emails down there because I don't want to see anybody see all the emails I've been getting from Ben Shalom.
That's £5.55 million that he gets for
guaranteed
losing the fight. Yeah, guaranteed. If he loses the fight. So he gets.
But if he wins, he gets 11.
Yeah, so in effect, he gets 1.5 million more than he got for the Povetkin fight, the first one. So
what if he wins? What if he wins?
If he wins, what was it? 11 points.
I don't think it's $11 million if he wins.
Okay, so that is if he wins, that's 8.2 million.
Okay, there you go. That's nearly double what he got for Povetkin. So what I'm hoping, Riku, is Dillian Whyte, since he knows he's going to win the fight, he's been calling out Tyson Fury for the last year and a half, 2 years. He says he's got this big magical left hook. Obviously, it's going to be an easier £8 million for Dillian.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if Eddie's going to come out with the burden. You know what? This is what Eddie's going to say. He's going to say, "Oh, DAZN, but ESPN bid too much, and we're happy that our fighters fighting another platform, and we also have the arbitration going. We, as in Eddie is obviously the lawyer or something. We have the arbitration going on. But doesn't this just look to you that DAZN doesn't actually have the money to compete when it comes to the biggest fights? That's what happened with Canelo Plant, and they might be chucking money at these mid-level fights where you're giving a fighter the A side 15, 20 million, then the B side a couple of million. But when it comes to getting these big, mega heavyweight fights, DAZN just can't compete. Like, if you imagine this is a reflection of what they could have put for Joshua against Fury, I mean, it's not like it's going to show that Joshua against Fury is going to be on DAZN. There would have been no chance of that happening.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we move on to just a slightly different question, I will say, what do you think about the conspiracy theory going around, yeah, on certain channel, on the comic sections of certain channels, that this is all a big plan from Eddie? It's all a massive big plan from Eddie to bankrupt Frank Warren, because Eddie knows that Frank Warren, I've tried explaining to them, Riku, 150 times that Frank Warren is not paying 41 million, but let's just forget that for a second. It's all a big plan. It's all a master plan from Eddie to bankrupt Frank Warren, because Eddie already knows that the arbitrator is going to, award Dillian Whyte a gazillion million trillion pounds, and Frank Warren's going to be bankrupt. And there's also another conspiracy theory, and that conspiracy theory is, I'm not joking, I have seen this in people's comment sections. DAZN are going to buy BT Sport, right? Which we know is going to happen anyway. DAZN's going to buy BT Sport, and then what's going to happen is, once DAZN buy BT Sport, before White gets to the ring with Fury, they're going to turn around to Frank and say, "Oh, sorry, Frank, the show belongs to Eddie," and then Eddie's going to get the show, and it's going to be a matchroom show. And I've legitimately seen people have been saying that out on the internet.
If anybody knows anything about these corporate transactions, due diligence, and all the time the integration everything takes, it's not like buying something from Wembley Markets, is it? You don't just go there and you just get the product, right? There's an integration period. There's all sorts of other things that happen. It's not if they want to get a deal done, they're not buying, they're not buying BT Sports for tens or hundreds of millions of pounds and all the rights just to screw over Frank Warren. It's not happening. Come on.
Just before we move on to a slightly different question, yes or no? Are they going to buy BT Sports? You still think that's on?
I think it is on, because we haven't heard much, and that's what happens with these deals. When the less you hear, the better the conversations are.
Okay.
Because what you hear is then at some point you'll hear it's not happening, sources will say. But if you don't hear anything, they're ironing out things. But what BT will also be doing is they're going to see who else wants to buy it, so they can actually drive up the price.
It's between DAZN.
I mean, that's where you hire bankers, right? Bankers will speak to Disney, they'll speak to Amazon Prime, and they'll speak to everybody else and see if they can put in a bid just to drive up the price. As
Mark Stanton says correctly, Queensberry own the fight rights, not BT. Can I ask?
Yeah, and Queensberry are the promoters, right? They named on the thing. You don't just transfer it over. And if they start spending the money to promote this fight, it's quite a big legal mess that suddenly 5 minutes before they're going to say, "Oh, Eddie's promoting," and then all of these matchroom mongs are going to tune in and say, "Actually, Eddie's promoting it. Let me buy the pay-per-view after all."
Well, it is what it is. 108 people in the chat, only 36 likes. Please support. Please hit the like button. I'm absolutely fucking out of my arse here, so I need Riku to basically carry me through this show. Hashtag ask Riku if you've got questions for Riku. But let me ask you, I didn't get an answer, Riku, so I just want to run through this one more time. I think I did get an answer, but I probably wasn't listening, or I was probably out of my brain. One more time. Yes or no, followed by an answer. Will Dillian turn up to fight? Will he fight, or will he pull out? I'll give you what I think is going to happen in a minute. But will Dillian fight?
No. I think they'll use the arbitration excuse and say there's not enough money. And if he was really up for fighting, regardless of whether anything's been signed, he at least would have said something like, "You know what, I want to, can't look forward to smashing this fool," or whatever he would say. But the fact that he hasn't said anything, and I know Coogan and everybody else would have been calling him.
Oh my God. He's going to be blowing up.
Trying to get him to do a quick video on his thoughts of things. And I think he's not going to, and he's going to try and use the arbitration and say, "Oh, we're still in arbitration. The offer's not fair, or the split isn't fair." But as he said, if he thinks that he can win this fight, in theory, he would make 30%, right?
Correct.
So if you're backing yourself, then why not take the fight? Because you're not worried about losing, are you? He's a fighting man and anybody can get it. So, yeah, let's see if the Can Man steps up.
The Can Man. Someone the other day is now calling him the Tin Can Man from The Wizard of Oz. Let me just say this. Let me just say quickly, right? I really am starting to believe that this fight isn't on. That's my opinion. I think Dillian Whyte's silence. I think you made a fantastic point about The purse bid's been won, but the contract hasn't been signed yet. So we should give Dillian Whyte some time and due diligence, right? But I'll be honest with you. I woke up first thing this morning, Riku, and I was expecting Dillian Whyte fans, particularly the well-known ones who like to make videos on YouTube, calling other fighters cowards and duckers and abusing other fighters and stuff. I was expecting these places to be overjoyed. That's what I was expecting to wake up to this morning. I was expecting to hear Dillian Whyte fans happy. Like, finally, we've been calling Fury a coward and a ducker, and now finally the fight's happening and our man's going to win. All we woke up to this morning was just a shit ton of excuses. And the number one excuse that's been brought out straight away is the arbitration. And I have a funny feeling, Riku, that in the next 24 hours, we're going to hear one of the following. Arbitration's still going on. Dillian wants to wait for the result of the arbitration before committing to anything. Proof of funds, I think. Remember the old proof of funds from the Wilder fight? Oh, but it might be something like Dillian needs to see proof of... Go on, Riku, jump in.
So on the proof of funds point, when you do put on a purse bid, you have to lodge some of the money, or you have to lodge some of the money in an escrow, because otherwise you and I could, you as Mick Hennessy's USA arm could have put a bid in for 100 million pounds for this fight. Like, you have to obviously show that you have the funds, and you have to put some of the money in the escrow. Then all of the money needs to be in an escrow before the fight. So, and let's be honest, it's not Frank Warren per se bidding his money here. This is Top Rank, Queensberry together bidding money. You've got ESPN money and you've got BT money. It's not like Frank Warren is using his own money for this. There's other money that's involved. So if people think ESPN are going to be bankrupt and Top Rank don't have the money, then they probably need to follow another sport, because they understand nothing about this sport.
Can I just bring something up? Have you seen how Frank Warren lives in these interviews? Have you seen? Yeah. I'm just gonna. I think you know what I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna try and bring up that Dev interview one more time, with Frank Warren, because you know what I've noticed recently, right? A lot of people are talking about Company's House and going on Company's House, which is absolutely fine, okay? And they're talking about Company's House and they're saying Frank Warren's broke and Queensberry's broke, which is absolutely fine. I just want to point something out, right? I'm just going to quickly share the screen here. Queensberry is a company, absolutely, possibly, may be in financial trouble. I think Company's House shows that Matchroom are far more marketable, more profitable, and have far more financial resources, at their helm than Queensberry do. But have you seen how Frank Warren's living? If you look in the background right now, you'll see this is where Frank Warren's living. I have to say, I always find it ironic that you've got guys on Universal Credit, who are basically shopping at, no disrespect, but these are guys who, when Iceland, when they bring out the bargain trolley at Iceland.
What £1, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. When they bring out the bargain trolley, these guys are fighting. These guys are fighting for the Iceland bargain bucket, trying to get the last pack of chicken drumsticks. Have you seen how Frank Warren's living? Look at those fucking glazed windows at the back.
And look at the plants. I don't see Frank being watering them himself. Somebody's watering them, and it's not Frank.
Jesus, have you seen how this man lives? Let me tell you, I think for all those people out there who are, like I said, working in fucking Noddy's chip shop, about to pull the Savoy out of the fucking microwave, I say, don't worry about Frank. If you look at how Frank's living, I don't think you need to worry about Frank's bank account. So on behalf of Ultratech Sports Channel, to all those other boxing channels, where's the money coming from? But where's Frank getting the money? Frank's broke. Don't worry about Frank. Frank Warren doesn't need to make shitty YouTube videos and charging people shitty YouTube membership, to make a living, because Frank Warren has a real job. And that's why when you look at Frank Warren's crib, his crib looks like the way it looks. Carry on, Rico. I'm sorry.
I think the other thing that people are missing is Queensberry might be making a loss, but that's not what's on the bank balance. We can't see how much cash. It's a private company, so we can't look at their balance sheet. So we don't know whether they've got millions and millions of pounds on the balance sheet and they're making a loss, right? Just because a company doesn't make a profit doesn't mean that they don't have money, right? It's logical. I mean, look, if you look at the big tech companies, a lot of them will make a loss, right? Boxing's a bit different, so it means that they're not making any money on shows and stuff. But if you look at the Matchroom accounts back in the day when they split out when they had boxing and all the other sports on balance sheet, it was effectively the Joshua shows that were carrying the whole franchise. and Joshua was the cash maker. Now they've done something with accounting where it's not as easy to look exactly what the boxing revenue is versus the revenue from the revenue that they're getting from darts and everything else. But Frank Warren, it's not just Frank Warren money. This is what people don't get. It's jointly Top Rank and Queensberry. Top Rank money might be involved. And Top Rank hasn't gone bust. Top Rank can afford to put on some big shows. So why has this company that has jointly put on Fury against Wilder 3 times, why couldn't they suddenly afford to back this? They don't care whose money's going in the purse, but it doesn't have to be Queensberry money.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is what people don't get. It doesn't have to be Queensberry money. It doesn't matter what Queensberry's financial situation is. Tyson Fury is a top-ranked fighter, and Queensberry's his promoter in the UK. Frank Warren's still involved in his career. So it could be all top-ranked money.
Let's talk about Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn, because I think that's linked into this. I think it's been a while since you've been on the show, Ricky, so I'm not sure if I had the chance to ask you this. If you were Anthony Joshua, would you have taken a step aside?
Yeah, for the right money, definitely. Why not?
Would you have taken it for 15 million?
Oh, 100%. I mean, what was it? There was a piece in the Times today about how much Anthony Joshua made. I'll find it for you, but yeah.
Yep. No.
Yeah, but it's not like these guys are making that much money, are they? So, 50 million, you're talking about Joshua's money that he makes. I mean, 50 million is a huge amount for a boxer for not fighting, right?
Huge amount. The rumors are, and again, that the deal was done at something like 10 to 15 million for AJ to step aside, and at the last minute, AJ asked for an extra 5 million, and that's what Frank Warren alluded to in his interview today, and that's something that Mike Coppinger has already said, which I think he's probably been fed that from Bob Arum. So we'll have to wait and see. And I'm not calling Anthony Joshua a duck or anything like that. I just want to clarify the point I'm trying to make here, and while we're linking this to Dillian Whyte, is I don't think, Riku, that Matchroom are going to want Dillian Whyte to go on a BT Sports show and get his skull bashed in when they can use the guard dog. When they can bring the guard dog in, they need. I think what bothers me about this whole situation, Riku, is this. I think Eddie Hearn has telegraphed it and given it away that he does not want Anthony Joshua to go straight back into this rematch with Usyk because I think he knows AJ's still doing his all-American fucking trainer tour, where he's just about giving every single trainer in the United States of America, a shot at
he's in the UK. AJ's in the UK. He's been here for a few weeks.
AJ's in the UK. Let me tell you, AJ might be in the UK, but I guarantee you he's doing Zoom calls with trainers in the US, and he's probably, doing virtual pads or virtual sparring and auditioning with another fucking 50 trainers, or it could be Robert Garcia. But either way,
do you trust him to operate Zoom effectively? That's the question I really have.
Is Zoom a black-owned business?
It's a community business.
Let me tell you something about AJ. Hold on a minute. Let me tell you something about AJ. Yeah, I don't encourage snitching on this channel. But if anybody see Anthony Joshua, not using everything black-owned business, can somebody report him? This man, when this man got a microphone and told everybody only shopping black-owned businesses, So where are these black-owned businesses?
Hugo Boss adverts. So I'm not going to give anybody the history of Hugo Boss, but I'm sure people can Google and find out how Hugo Boss got its start and during what period of German history. So,
hold on a minute, Rico. Are you telling me that Hugo Boss is not a black-owned business? Hold on, let me tell you. I thought this was the owner of Hugo Boss. One sec. Isn't this the owner of Hugo Boss? I thought this was the owner of Hugo Boss, isn't it? Because AJ only works in black-owned businesses. So it wouldn't be like AJ.
He must think that Hugo Boss is a hustler from the streets. But, what was his speech? You must think Hugo Boss is some sort of hustler on the streets.
Oh, look up to the Hugo Bosses, the Hugo Bosses, the Giorgio, the Giorgio Armanis, the Gianni Versace's, the hustlers, We're bringing it back to the rough, rugged, raw streets,
Frank Lucas, Hugo Boss, Giorgio Armani. Garamoa. They were all part of the Garamoa.
Do you remember? I just quickly say, do you remember the Hugo Boss ripoff? I am the boss. I don't know if you're old enough to rip off. Do you remember that? There's a ripoff, Wembley Market, because I'm actually from those kind of areas, so I know Wembley Market very well. There's an old school ripoff of Hugo Boss, and what you've got is you've got the boss in big letters, and it says "I am the" in really small letters, and then you get the boss logo. I don't know. I was going to make a joke there about AJ, but
speaking about ripoffs, I saw a guy with the best ripoff I've ever seen at Victoria Station the other day. He had the Nike logo on his tracksuit bottoms, but it was two Nike logos, one on top of the other. So that's a pretty good copyright thing, right? It's not Nike, but it's double Nike logoed.
Very nice. Eddie Hearn doesn't want him to fight Usyk next. What do you think about that? Yes or no? Do you agree or disagree?
100% he doesn't want him to fight Usyk. I understand why. I think if I was advising him in any way, I'd say don't do it next. It's not. I'd rather get Usyk having another fight or sit on the sidelines. And I agree with Eddie, especially if he's changing trainer, he shouldn't be fighting Usyk next.
I've got a feeling. What do you think Eddie Hearn's conversation will be with Dillian Whyte? I think I know what it is. I think Eddie Hearn will be talking to Dillian Whyte right now, and I think the two of them will be. Maybe I'm just going out of my mind here. I think Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte are talking, and it wouldn't surprise me if they're discussing a way out. And I think if there's any way that Eddie Hearn can ask Usyk to step aside, or allow Usyk to, or I just keep thinking it could be something like, look, Usyk, will you give Dillian Whyte a shot? Usyk, will you give Dillian Whyte a shot? It's a pretty simple fight for you, and then we'll guarantee you.
That's a good point.
And then we'll guarantee you that. And then we guarantee you the shot.
Solve a lot of the problems, right?
That would solve all of Matchroom's problems right there. That would solve all the problems if they could just beg Alexander Usyk. Will you give Dillian a shot? We'll guarantee you a shot, Anthony Joshua. You'll make a shit ton of money. I mean, Usyk will get Dillian out of there. And there's no question in my. That's a horrendous matchup for Dillian Usyk, because Usyk's, in his prime. It's the angles, it's the movement. It's a horrific matchup it's a southpaw, horrific matchup for Dillian. So I would think, if you're Usyk, that's a fight that you expect to win. You can make a shitload of money on pay-per-view, knock Dillian Whyte over. Then you've got the guaranteed rematch with Anthony Joshua. Then you make another fucking 5, 10, 15 or 10 or whatever you're making. And then it's undisputed. I'm just wondering, given that relationship that Hearn's had with Usyk, I believe he's a co-promoter or he's involved with him or he has some kind of agreement with him somewhat.
Yeah, I think when he won that fight, he became... They decided they're going to co-promote him. It was all part of the contract. It's quite standard. If you win as a voluntary, then you often sign up for like 2-3 fights to fight with the promoter.
Let me say big shout out to. No, go carry on, Mickey. Let me while you're googling that, let me just quickly say big shout out to Wayne Alexander in the chat, who's a friend of the show. Former.
Oh, big shout out, yeah.
Oh yeah, listen. We've got the big boys here. Like I said, hey Wayne, I don't know if you're listening. Your mate Tunde Ajayi left me a message on the Anthony Yard versus Lyndon Arthur live. Do you remember, Wayne, you were live with us for the Anthony Yard versus Lyndon Arthur live? If you go and look at that video, Tunde's left you a message and he said, "Don't speak to him ever again." Wait, I'm not even joking. Go and have a look. Obviously, he said that in jest, but Tunde said, "Yeah, Wayne, don't chat to me ever again." Yeah, because you picked Lyndon Arthur to win. So if you have a look at that, your mate Tunde's left you a lovely message. Thanks for joining us today, Wayne. Riku, sorry, please carry on and talk. I'm going to go and get a cup of tea. Carry on.
No, boxing royalty in Wayne Alexander. So I think we're very privileged to have him. So I was just looking through the rankings and I can't seem to find Whyte ranked in any of the governing bodies that Usyk holds the belts. But then again, you could always replace Martin Bacoli at number 15 on the IBF and make that mandatory.
The less said about him, the better. He's in legal action with Tony Yoka. Carry on, Riku.
Yeah, exactly. I hope Belly Nelson's not writing legal letters.
Jesus Christ. Let me ask. What do you think the outcome of all this is going to be, Riku? What you had to guess right now? What do you think the outcome of it's going to be? Do you think we're going to get... Let me start off with Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk. Are we going to get Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk as the next fight? They're now talking about June. Bob Arum says this fight will happen in June, obviously because you've got Fury and Whyte happening just before that in April. So it's going to be June for AJ and Usyk. Now, Eddie Hearn said that AJ activated the rematch clause. He activated that rematch clause back in October of 2021. Yeah, that's when AJ activated this rematch clause. Well, it looks like June, fucking 8 months later, it looks like these guys finally might get in the ring. What will happen? And just run us through, Riku. I'm dying here, and I'm trying not to talk because my throat's in pieces. Run us through the following. What will Eddie Hearn be planning? What will he be saying to Dillian Whyte? What will the options he'll be presenting to him? What would you do? And will AJ have to fight Usyk next? I think if there's any way they can bring the guard dog in and use the guard dog. You ever seen the film K9 with Jim Belushi?
Yeah,
That's like one of my favorite films of all time. Who's seen that movie, K9 with Jim Belushi? That's like one of my favorite films, yeah, of all time. And you ever seen it at the end, yeah, where him and Jim, the dog and Jim Belushi, yeah, are arguing non-stop, yeah, for the entire film. And then right at the end of the film, yeah, somebody takes a shot at Jim Belushi and the dog jumps in between and the dog saves his life, yeah? Is
that Dillian Whyte?
There you go. Is Dillian going to be K9, yeah? And AJ's going to be Jim Belushi. That's what I'm worried about. Is it the last minute? Usyk's going to take a shot, yeah? And the dog, yeah, aka Dillian, K9. That's what we call Dillian Whyte now. K9 is going to jump, yeah, in front of AJ, yeah, and save him at the last minute. Riku, give us your opinion on that.
I mean, that's a weird analogy, but I like it. Look, I think there's a lot of moving pieces. So number one is this Whyte Tyson Fury against Dillian Whyte situation. So they have to come to some form of agreement with the contract. And from my understanding, if obviously once the purse money is finalized, there's a certain time that they have to negotiate the contract. And if they can't negotiate the contract, then Whyte would lose his mandatory position. That's my understanding of what happened. So they have to move relatively quickly. There's probably a possibility here that the Usyk against Tyson Fury fight could still happen if they can get enough money for that. The other possibility, what that would mean is that Joshua would fight against Whyte. And I think that's a great way for everybody to save face. Fury fights for the unification against Usyk, all British heavyweight clash between Whyte and Joshua, and then the winner faces the winner in those fights. And that way Joshua could say, well, I wanted I love the unification. Because also with Joshua, the thing is, he doesn't really have time on his side. At the end of the day, you can activate the rematch clauses, but they are time bound. So there's a certain period of time that they have to make the fight. And I don't think there's any excuse that they can't make the fight because Joshua is not injured or there hasn't been operation. Usyk needs to be kept busy as well. So there would be some period where the rematch clause just becomes basically useless. And then that would mean that Usyk would have to find another opponent, which Eddie would still be promoting the fight. So I don't think Usyk and his team are looking for a legal way out of that, because if anything, I think it works for them just to drag this for a bit longer. But I genuinely don't think that the Fury against Whyte fight happens unless Tyson Fury can fight against Usyk. Well, if Tyson Fury can fight against Usyk and they can make that happen. I think Fury against Whyte, I think Whyte will be asking Eddie for more money. He'll want some sort of guarantees for the next fight, guaranteed purses. He'll want some sort of idea of who he will be facing if he were to lose that fight, because the last thing he wants to go is in the back of the queue and not make money and fight on standard DAZN. But the idea of having these big fights in Saudi and everywhere else, I don't think that money is actually, it's not really a real thing anymore. I think the days of Saudi caring about boxing after purchasing Newcastle United and having Formula One there and lots of other sporting events, unless they can get a unification bout, they're not going to be too interested. And with no travel, with the current travel restrictions from many countries, it doesn't make sense to host big sporting events there.
let me just jump in here. Something slightly more distasteful than Anthony Joshua's Black Lives Matter rhetoric is the number of likes currently on the stream. 150 people watching and 50 likes. That's absolutely and utterly outrageous. Please, if you can, please hit the like. What tea are you drinking there, Riku?
The missus made me some sort of weird, whatever this is, peppermint tea.
Peppermint tea. I hope that's black-owned tea. All right, fair enough.
The brew company, it's definitely from Black Country, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they own it. Yeah, it's definitely working in the fields though. What was I going to say? What was I going to say? Sorry, I was going to ask you, Dillian Whyte. How does he ever live it down if he doesn't take this fight? I mean, listen, I'm a big advocate of boxers shouldn't give a shit what the fans think, because at the end of the day, fans are what they are. But I've had a lot of people say to me, no, Ultra, Dillian absolutely has nowhere to go. He has to take it. I mean, look, Frank Warren, what Frank is doing is incredibly clever. I mean, the way Frank and BT Sport, they've got the posters ready. I mean, literally within a second of winning the purse bid, BT Sport had everything ready. BT Box Office, bing, bing, bang. They are on it. Like, you can see what Queensbury and BT are doing here. They're giving White no room to pull out. I've been watching what average casual fans have been saying on Twitter all morning. They have no idea that there's a possibility that this fight's not on. As far as they're concerned, this fight is on. And they're all sitting here talking about what's going to happen and what and when it's going to be, yeah? So if Dillian Whyte does pull out, I mean, listen, I think Dillian should always do what's best for him. Forget what the fans think, right? That's my opinion. But do you think it's going to be pretty much end his reputation with the fans? Because I think, like I said, he's got a reputation as a guy who's been very, very hardly done. A lot of people believe in this kind of global conspiracy, Illuminati-style conspiracy, where everybody's out to stop Dillian Whyte being a champion. If he does not take this fight next, do you think that's pretty much the end of his reputation around boxing circles?
I think so, yeah. I mean, look, if you get title shots to beat the best heavyweight on the planet, and you get it at this stage of your career, he's not a young fighter anymore. So it's an all British fight as well. It's going to be fought in the UK. There's no reason that he shouldn't be taking this fight, because this is one of these opportunities. I guarantee you, if Joe Joyce were offered this fight with the money that was what's on the table, he would definitely take that, right? He'd definitely take the fight. No questions asked.
Let me just jump in, Riku, and say as well, people are misunderstanding, Riku. It's not just the money, right? Okay, it is really just the money. But the bottom line is Dillian Whyte's getting a guarantee $7.5 million to fight for the WBC Ring and Lineal Championships, right? So he's not just fighting for some fucking WBA interim, yeah? Or some WBO Continental or WBO Global, whatever they call it. And he's going to go down in history. I mean, it's going to go from, Lennox Lewis to Vladimir Klitschko to Tyson Fury to Dillian Whyte. The lineage will go right through him. Like, he will go down in history. Now, obviously, is history more important than a paycheck? No, it's not. But having said that, I mean, the opportunity that he's got is absolutely huge. Carry on, Riku, sorry.
The other thing to remember is his own promoter's bid was way below what Top Rank bid. And obviously, for his own promoter, they know what value he generates. So this was under the hypothetical you're making the bid, assuming that this is how much revenue. I mean, these bids aren't pulled out of thin air, right? They would have done the maths and looked at how much Dillian Whyte has previously generated, how many pay-per-view sales. It would be on his own pay-per-view, probably what the cost of marketing and advertising this event is, venue hires, ticket sales. Like, you would have modeled everything like you would have done, and you would have put your profits on top. So the outcome of that was that the most they could bid for the value of the event in their eyes would have given Dillian Whyte £4.8 million roughly. So not much more than he got for the Povetkin fight. So whatever he's gained from Top Rank, which is significantly more, it's a lot more than his own promoter values him. So it's not a case that he's worth a lot more, because surely your own promoter knows what your worth is because they have all the numbers.
Pay-per-view star, according to Ben Shalom. No joke. He said Dillian Whyte is a pay-per-view star in his own. I've never seen the numbers to ever back that up, ever at all. I've seen him on a bunch of stacked undercards. I also saw him on a headliner show with Otto Wallin, which, according to all people, was dead in the water at the time he pulled out and wasn't doing any fucking ticket sales. So, like I said before, I mean, like I've never seen. Harvey Chan in the chat's got me shooky saying, "Ultra, if White ever meets you, I mean, fucking hell, what about?" The thing is, right? I don't think people say this to me. Ultra, when Dillian finds you, he'll kill you, which is true. But I don't think I've ever said anything that's actually that bad. What have I said? What have I actually said?
No,
I've said what?
We only say our opinions here. I mean, nobody's calling him a coward. Nobody's saying that he's a bad, he's a terrible fighter or he's a terrible human being. I mean, if we can't have our opinions, then what's the point of doing anything, right?
Okay, right. Let's do Ask Riku.
But let's not forget the big. I'd pay for the pay-per-view just to watch Dean Whyte and John Fury going at each other. That would be worth it.
Listen, Dean Whyte ain't turning up. Dean Whyte ain't turning up. Dean White's not turning up. You think Dean White's going to turn up? What fight is he going to? There's not going to be a fight. You're going to see Dean Whyte turning up.
That's it. But if the fight were to happen, Dean Whyte and John Fury going out would be quite good.
Absolutely. Listen, they should all do it. And I would say this. Listen, for Dillian, forget about Eddie Hearn, right? This is the biggest night of your life, ever in your life so far, right? Maybe Dillian will beat Fury and go on to Undisputed. But as it stands, right, this is the biggest night of your life. Dillian Whyte will regret it, in my opinion, if he just sits at home, doesn't partake in any of the press conferences, sits at home in Portugal and just does the training and doesn't. Because you know what? Listen, when it's all said and done, I know we'll have the money and stuff, but when it's all said and done, memories also count for something as well, And I just think it'll be better, do you know what I mean, for Dillian, 20, because when this is all said and done, Riku, 20, 30 years down the line, and Dillian Whyte's an old man sitting under a palm tree with a supermarket in his hand, right? He's not going to be worried about fucking Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. He's going to be sitting there thinking, and they'll be talking with his fans, and they'll be saying, "Hey man, do you remember that press conference from for Fury and your fight with Fury when people were chucking tables at each other and Dean Whyte was calling himself your brother and all this stuff and blah blah blah. Do you remember all this?" And he'll look back at it, he'll look back at it with really really fond memories. So I would say to Dillian, this is what I'm saying: don't get wrapped up in the fucking Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren business. Forget all that shit. Do what's right for you. You're getting a career high payday. If you win this fight, you're going to get $11 million. If you win this fight, take the fight, take the money, do the press conferences, and have something to look back on in your career, because this is the biggest fucking moment of your career. And that's just my humble opinion. If you've got nothing to add to that, Rick, go on, add it.
I'll just say, isn't this really what he's been training for all those years? And isn't this the pinnacle of the sport, right? And whoever isn't part of him as a person, right? Forget about the money and everything else. They all get handsomely paid. But isn't part of it about seeing how good you are in any walk of life, whether it's in boxing or anything else, like going into the ring with the best fighter, heavyweight of your generation, and giving it a shot, right? Crazier things have happened than, Dillian Whyte beating Tyson Fury, right? I mean, Andy Ruiz beat Anthony Joshua at the time, which was a huge upset. Buster Douglas has beaten Mike Tyson. But isn't it all about just going in there and seeing how well you could do? And looking back, even if you lose and you put on a great night, your stock goes up, and that's part of your legacy. Look at Otto Wallin against Tyson Fury.
Exactly.
I mean, he went in there, he gave his all, and you know what? We respect him as a result. And isn't that really what boxing's all about? I mean, if Wayne Alexander's still in the chat, let us know what you think about how much memories and, fighting on the big stage, when you look back at your careers, how much that matters rather than everything else around it. The hyperbole and potentially, like, if you get well compensated, would you trade, when you look back at your career, how important is those big occasions and big fights and, title fights and everything else?
And let me just say, and people are going to dislike me for saying this in the chat, please hit like and please hit subscribe if you're listening. We've still got 135 in here. Let me just say, I hate to say this, but I'm going to be real with you. Eddie Hearn is absolutely fucking poisonous when it comes to this kind of thing. I mean, he's the fucking man. He's the expert at turning fighters against each other, turning fighters against other promoters. This is the guy who turned around and told Dave Allen, and again, we all know what Eddie Hearn did, for those of you who don't know. Dave Allen was offered a 6-figure, life-changing payday to fight Daniel Dubois. Eddie Hearn, according to Dave Allen's own words now, Eddie Hearn told Dave Allen, do not take the fight on Queensberry with Daniel Dubois. I will match Frank's offer in your next fight. Dave Allen turned down life-changing money. I believe the money was anywhere between £300,000 and £600,000 or something ridiculous. £300,000 and £600,000 or something like that. Dave Allen turned down that money thinking that Eddie Hearn was going to match the offer like he promised. And the next time Eddie Hearn phoned Dave, it was for a fight with Hughie Fury, and it was for at least a quarter of the money that he was promised. And then Dave realised he'd been absolutely shafted. So my word to Dillian is, don't end up like Dave Allen, sitting in your chair, regretting the payday. Don't do all this, take the fight and don't engage in the press conferences and stay at home in Portugal and don't engage with the fans and don't engage with the banter and don't do any of that. I would just say, look, don't do any of that because you will regret it. Sorry, Rico, carry on.
So just looking at Eddie Hearn's situation at the moment. So you've got John Ryder against Danny Jacobs at Crystal Palace.
Oh, he gives a shit. Yeah, it's a great fight. Great
Okoli against Keys Lack. Wood against Conlon.
You couldn't pay me to watch Lawrence Okoli. He literally put a glass eye to sleep. But carry on. Literally, he'd rock you to bed, Okoli, wouldn't he? He must. I'll tell you what, Okoli's missus must love him because he must be always giving out hugs. Carry on.
Martinez against Warrington 2. Kano against Dorano.
That's a good fight.
So if you think about all of these fights and the fighters on his roster, and let's just assume for a moment that Dillian Whyte will be fighting on BT Sports. Joshua will be fighting on Sky. The question I put on Twitter is, what is the best fight that DAZN can make in the next 6 months involving an English fighter or British fighter? What's the best fight they can put on? So none of these guys that I mentioned are probably going to fight again this year.
Oh, I've got one.
Who?
Hold on. They have got one big star. I'm surprised you forgot this guy. You've forgotten like one of their
Conor
biggest
Ben.
stars. No. I'm talking about heavyweight.
Derek Chisora.
No. This guy is a huge favourite.
Johnny Fisher with the great footwork.
It's Johnny Fisher. What about if Johnny Fisher can? But hold on a minute. Just give me a sec. Eddie Hearn was on fucking DAZN about a month ago saying Johnny Fisher's going to be a huge star. We're going to start taking him to Vegas soon. They said, imagine we're going to start doing big nights in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, just concentrate on the footwork, Johnny.
He's still crossing his feet. Carry on, Rico.
If you go onto DAZN's website and look at their fighters, they've got Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, Bernard Hopkins, and Shane Mosley down as their current fighters.
Well, they got Shane Mosley. No, they have not. You liar.
Yeah,
they have not got Shane Mosley.
You can put this on the screen. I'll send you.
I'm going
there you go. So you can put this on the screen and you can scroll through the fighters. When you go to sports, boxing, and go through the fighters, and you'll see their roster, which includes.
Oh, let's have a look. This is looking good. Why is Canelo on there? Why is Canelo on there? All right, hold on. How do I do this shit? Okay. Let's have a look. Why is Floyd Mayweather on there? Hold on. What the fuck? Right. Hey, hold on a minute. But to be fair, that's not what they're saying. These are the fights that they've. These are the fights that they've got. So you can get fights from these fighters. To be fair, I don't think DAZN is saying these are their fighters. I think they're saying that you can actually watch these fighters.
I mean, archives is a different thing, right? But do you think at the back end, if you go back,
yeah.
So if you go, yeah. Is this like the great order of greatness? So at the end, you have the greatest fighters. So you've got Andrade, Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, Bernard Hopkins, and Shane Mosley.
Jeez, I bet Andrade doesn't get a lot of clicks. Jesus Christ. I mean, can you imagine? I feel sorry for DAZN subscribers. Can you imagine? Yeah, you're looking at DAZN's schedule and you've got nothing to watch. So you have to click on Andrade. Hold on. Let's just see what happens if we click on it. What happens if we click on it? Demetrius Andrade on DAZN. This is the man who's given up his world title at the first sign of any sort of decent challenge. But anyway, let's have a look. The Demetrius Andrade highlights. You've got Andrade versus Williams. Okay. We've got Andrade versus Quigley. And we've got Andrade versus Keeler. Andrade versus Akavov. England calls him Wolverine. Yeah, he's the one who got in the ring of Andrade versus Sulecki. And Andrade versus Katundonka. So, yeah, like I said, very, very promising schedule. But like I said, I keep getting told, Riku, that it's all going to change when they buy BT Sports. Frank Warren will be out. They're going to buy BT Sport. And literally people are telling me that the reason why Eddie Hearn made a low bid is because DAZN are buying BT Sport anyway. And so it doesn't matter because Eddie Hearn's still going to get the fight. So there you go. Carry on, Ricky.
I mean, these are people that know nothing about business, but good on them.
Let's go through some. Let's go through some Ask Riku when you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Dennis Baktov. Nice to see Dennis Baktov here, fresh from his O2 Arena stoppage by Anthony Joshua. Don't forget, Dennis Baktov had the pleasure of getting in with the prime AJ. Because that's what we're hearing these days. Like, AJ's not himself these days. He needs
him
to go
and
back
Jason
to
Gavin. Him and
That's
Jason
it.
Gavin.
That's it. AJ needs to go back to the dominant AJ when he was a killer, when he was in the ring with Gavin, Baktov, and fucking Gary Cornish. Apparently that was his peak with Tony Sims.
Yeah, sure.
Eddie has no.
Go ahead.
Okay,
go ahead.
Ask Riku. Has Eddie done all right from this, as he doesn't need to pay White's purse, and once White and AJ both lose, then he'll have them fight each other?
Well, I think his job is to provide good boxing content for DAZN, and that's what they pay him for. DAZN made a big song and dance of signing White, so it's not he's not putting his own money, right? He's putting DAZN's money. So for Eddie Hearn, effectively, what good looks like isn't whether White wins or loses. It's about whether DAZN gets more subscribers, right? And they get to control the undercard. They get to showcase a big event. They get to air that in DAZN US. They get to air that in the UK and the other markets. That's effectively what good looks like. It's not about somebody else paying their money. I mean, look, it's different for ESPN because if DAZN would have got him, DAZN would have had to pay for Fury's purse, but ESPN has bottomless pockets, more or less. I mean, they're owned by Disney, right? It's a billion-dollar company. Whatever they're paying for this is a lot less than they would be paying for content that they put on their Disney Plus app.
Riku, Samuel Harrison says, are we having a massive party around your house for Ebony Bridges' title fight?
Well, I don't know you, but Ebony Bridges' title fight is not going to be at my house, so that's all I'm saying, Samuel.
I tell you what, Riku, if she becomes world champion, she'll be increasing the prices of her lingerie.
The socks, huge socks.
Jesus Christ, I think they'd be going up 10%. ABB says, what breed of guard dog is Dillian Whyte?
Maybe a K9, just there to be stopped. Just there to stop anything bad happening.
To AJ, yeah. I don't know if I asked you this already, but SB Gas asks, do you think there's any chance that MTK contributed to the bid? He specifically means Kinahan, I think. I think there's a big conspiracy. The White fans are crying, but it's Kinahan's money, it's Kinahan's money.
So just to be clear, if ESPN are, and which is Disney owned, are contributing to the bid, they would have very stringent anti-money laundering policies. I'm not taking a stance on what Kinahan is. I'm just saying he's on Interpol lists and others. So as a result, Disney / Top Rank / ESPN can't really be mixing their money into the bid. And once again, Disney, ESPN, Top Rank does not need any money from anybody to contribute to the bid. And they bid what they think is fair. And remember this, they have the big advantage of being able to sell this fight in the US on pay-per-view for, call it $70 a fight. So if they sell 100,000, 150,000 buys in the US for 70,000, that's a lot more than DAZN needs to acquire new subscribers in order to make profit from this fight. Now, whether DAZN was going to put it as a one-off pay-per-view, if they were going to put it as a one-off pay-per-view, their cost of marketing the fight are far higher than Disney has to do, and ESPN and BT has to do, because they don't have a linear channel or a similar subscriber base. It's just simple things like people aren't going to, in order to watch the DAZN pay-per-view, not only do they have to spend loads on advertising spend, advertising potentially on things like IT. Well, actually, they can't really advertise on other channels. Nobody's going to sell an advert to them for that. And also DAZN, to my knowledge, they don't really do many ads, do they?
Haven't seen many. Other than the ones at Pizza Patron to get a free enchilada and free hot wings.
So what BT has, BT Sports, ESPN has over DAZN, why they can generate more money. Number one, they can sell ads at a higher cost around the events. Number two, they can cross-promote this event for free. So they can put another show, they can run ads on their channel, which has lots of subscribers. Number three, they connect with people in multiple ways. So use their broadband and other things. So they can probably use that to target people. Number four, they're just a bigger brand. So for them to reach a bigger audience to sell this fight just in the UK is a lot easier than DAZN doing it. I'll give you an example. Your mates at the pub, whoever's watching this, how many of them who aren't boxing fans know what DAZN is? And also, how many of them would know a big fight is happening on DAZN if they aren't DAZN subscribers? They just wouldn't know because DAZN doesn't reach them. Whereas Sky and everything else just keeps on hitting your senses and reminding you that the big fight's happening. So everybody's aware. Yeah,
and also Sky have got a really good notification service. It's like Ben Shalom will give you a phone call for 25 minutes for the pay-per-view and ask if you want to do a deal.
His Sky Sports app probably reminded him that the first place are happening today.
This guy's a clown. Dennis Baktov, Riku, what do you think of Lara being out before Kiko Warrington? And why has no one else asked this in their interviews this week? I have no idea what he's talking about. Lara being out before Kiko Warrington. Clarify, Riku.
So I think what he probably means is that Lara... Is Lara fighting before then? No,
yeah, Baktov, can you... Baktov, we're casuals in here. Can you just quickly clarify that, and we'll get to that. In the meantime, Riku, let me go on to this other question, and then Baktov will come back. Rob says,
so Lara is fighting in San Diego,
right?
He's fighting on whose show is he fighting on? Let's see. All right, go for the next question.
Okay, no worries. I think you're right. Mark Stanton saying Lara is fighting in the USA a couple of weeks before Warrington. So let's just go back to the question. What do you think of Lara being out before Kiko and Warrington? As why has no one asked this in the interviews? Is Baktov basically asking why Lara hasn't got the shot and why Warrington has?
Well, I think what they're trying to do is to get Lara to win, and then the winner goes in a unification bout, right? I mean, that's how it would make sense, rather than there was no real obligation for Josh Warrington. Like, ideally, they think Josh Warrington's going to win the fight, get the belt, then he's going to have his trilogy or his third fight against Lara in Leeds. That's what they're thinking.
Okay. I think you've answered this a million times, but just answer it one more time. I do think Rob was late to the show. Ask Riku, hashtag Ask Riku. If you want to ask Riku anything, ask him now. Rob says, if White doesn't take this fight with Fury, will that be it for him? Riku, I'll be honest with you. If they can recycle Derek Chisora in the way they've recycled him, I think there's probably some hope for Dillian Whyte, to be honest. As much as I want to say that's it for him.
Most of these Matchroom fans are so dumb that they'll buy whatever excuse Eddie gives them why the fight didn't happen, and then they can just recycle him. Yeah, he'll end up fighting against Joshua and then after losing Joshua, they'll do another comeback fight, and maybe he fights against Johnny Fisher.
If things get really bad, he can fight Joseph Parker in that rematch.
That is true.
Chris Watkins has asked this twice, actually. I haven't got around to it. He's asked, what style should Fury use against White? We've been discussing it. Quite a few people think we're going to see Fury versus Chisora too. I personally don't, but Riku, feel free to give your opinion. Hashtag ask Riku.
I think if you can push him
please
back,
hit the like button. Carry on, sorry.
Please hit the like and subscribe. I think if you can push him back and use his jab effectively, White isn't good at fighting backwards. So I think if you can push him back, you can probably stop him in the mid rounds. High tempo and fighting on the back foot are like kryptonite for White. So White likes to fight coming forward. So I think that's Fury's strategy. And I think Fury can take the center of the ring and make him move a lot. So I think he can stop him in the mid round if that fight were to happen.
We'll see. I mean, you never know with Fury. He might pull out. And we talked about White pulling out. I mean, Fury's pulled out of a fair few fights. I mean, let's get it twisted. I mean, if Fury's not 100%, he probably will pull out himself as well. So, like I said before, I'm almost expecting this fight either not to happen or delays. But I also will say, if Fury does come in at 100%, if he does come in at 100%, I honestly believe this fight could go very, very early. That's just, I'm probably going to be wrong there, and Dillian Whyte's going to look him out. But I actually really believe that if Fury does turn up at 100%, I believe this could go quicker than what people are thinking. But we'll wait and see. Again, I don't know if you want to answer this. Crazy D3 is saying, what are the keys to victory for Dillian Whyte? I'll quickly butt him before we jump in, Rico. I would say fucking turning up is the first key to victory. Turning up, yeah. Turn up. That'd be the first key. Turn up and fight. Carry on.
I think, you know what, Fury Dillian isn't the hardest puncher in the world. I think people often think that he is. I think if he can actually take the center of the ring himself and he can land a lot of shots in the body, and then he can maybe hit him with a left hook somehow and knock him down and, finish the job as such. And Dillian can be he's quite unorthodox as a fighter, so
he's very clumsy, but that sometimes works in his favor. I think Dillian's gonna if he turns up, I think Dillian will absolutely go for it. I think he'll bum rush Fury.
He'll go for broke. He'll go for broke.
He'll go,
I mean, he doesn't really have any other option.
He'll go for broke to close the distance. And from what I see from Dillian's going to walk in straight lines, and he'll throw an overhand right to close the distance, and then he'll fire left hooks off that. And we'll see what Fury can do. Let's have a look here. Oh, Jesus Christ. See that? Who was White ever actually hurt to the body? I've had a few people asking this in recent months because we always call White the body snatcher.
That's a good question. I can't think off the top of my head. The body snatcher.
Parker. I would say early on in the Parker fight, he definitely hurt Parker to the body early on in the Parker fight.
He was gone in the end. He was so gone. If it was a 15-round fight, he would have been stopped.
15 round. If there was
round 13, he would have been stopped.
15 seconds left, he was done. He was absolutely toasting that fight. I'll tell you what, Riku, let me ask you something. If Dillian Whyte was to fight Tyson Fury and get knocked out, which is not a guarantee, right? But if Whyte was to fight Fury and get knocked out, what do you think the excuses would be from his supporters? What do you think? I think I know what's going to happen. By the way, I'll tell you what, the excuses from his supporters, I think, will be it's a Frank Warren show. And I think everybody else will say, told you so. I think everybody else will say, told you so, he's a bum. Because I'm seeing some of the excuses that I'm seeing now revolve around it being a Frank Warren show. And I said this on my earlier show today.
He had to go for it because it was a Frank Warren show. He was never going to get on points.
Well, I mean,
that logic, obviously. And then there would also be, I don't know, probably something bad camp or, his shoulder problems back there. He wasn't 100%.
Yeah. The arbitrator slipped something in his drink or something, in his Jack too. Yeah, it was what it is. It is what it is. All right. Any final words, Riku? Close out for us.
No, I mean, final words from Phil Randall that messaged me on Twitter to say, if you're an Ultras channel later, can you just pass on how grateful I am, and no doubt hundreds of others, for his content? I'm not sure if he appreciates how much of a good impact he has on lots of people. So I think those are good final words, and therefore everybody should like and subscribe. But yeah, those are the final words. So thank you for putting the show on. I think we'll all watch with interest over the next few weeks what happens. And just, I think my final word is people think winning a purse bid equals signing a contract. It only equals what the figures are going to be in the contract for the mandatory challenger. Doesn't mean Tyson Fury will make that money, which is on the purse bid, but that's a separate point. But yeah, I think we'll have to see what the noises are coming out of Team Whyte, particularly Eddie. I mean, we all know Eddie can't help himself, so somebody has to pass a microphone.
How long do you think it will be? I think we'll get an inkling. I really do think we're going to get an inkling very, very soon as to whether this is going to happen. I'm
well,
really
Eddie's next interview Eddie's interview will give you the answer.
Of course, because he's got a big mouth and he will say something. Absolutely, he will say something. Carry on, Miku.
I mean, look, the leverage for Whyte to get more money's out the door. It's not they show, so he can't ask for more money. His promoter's bid, money which was under the winning bid, so therefore there's not much they can really do, right? I mean, Whyte has to accept the fights on the purse terms they're offered, but you know, they've got outs. They can perhaps claim that the contract that was offered wasn't, you know, it wasn't good and yada yada yada, or they can say that Whyte has a bigger fight and you know what, we've got another plan for Whyte until the WBC arbitration is done. But I just think it would look quite bad. I mean, this is the pinnacle of the man's career, and this is really what he's been training for his whole life. So to pass on this opportunity, that will be a big shame.
Okay, Rico, that's it. Hopefully see you next week. All right?
Yeah, good speaking to you as well, and take care. And I hope everybody has a nice Saturday.
Take care. See you guys later.
Cheers. Bye.